How should the man initiate a date? How does he get that woman off the app? What would you do?
I would always ask them like an either or question. I don't think it's ever failed, to be honest.
It's really, really smart. Let me just bring them into the details.
Women have all the power. Men will work and will play ball to the level of which you want them to. The women set that up for success.
A lot of men will just continue to go back and forth in conversation, not doing anything bold, and then it just goes nowhere.
Really?
Yes. I think men are very...
You've just been messing with betas.
Well, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
If you're meeting on a dating app, so you know they're there to date and go on dates, you have a 5-day window from when you match to ask her out.
Well, what about women taking the lead and asking the man on the date if he's not making the move? Now, there are situations where that can be cute, okay? But we need...
If a woman is expressing interest and she doesn't know if the guy's picking up on the hint, you don't go up to the guy and be like, pizza or sushi this Saturday, I'm taking you out. No.
No.
And if a man says yes, that's not the man you want.
So it starts from the very beginning stages on this stuff, guys. What I would recommend, and this is what I personally did to great success because I had a fantastic time dating. If a man did not text me, I did not exist.
I know the one thing I want to do on a first date is 2 things. Make sure we have a lot of fun and make sure they...
I would say for women, we do not want to get stuck in the emotional support texting zone. We want to get off of texting and meeting this person as quickly as possible.
How do you feel about us doing like a mock first date?
Oh, that'd be fun. I was thinking about doing that too.
Okay, so this is how it's going to go. I'm going to go off camera for a second. I'm going to walk back in. I'm going to sit down and we're going to treat this as if it's a first date for like 10 minutes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it? Okay.
Welcome back to Listen Before Love. We are back again, my baby Lou.
It's going to be a good one. I'm excited for this one.
Are you really?
Yeah, I say it every time. But the excitement continues, especially the topic for today.
Ooh, and we have a juicy one for you, y'all, because we are continuing on in our first date series. Okay, so we are getting you right on dating. We have talked about setting up dating apps for success. We have talked about how to stand out on the apps and how to message, how to set yourself apart, how to be fully authentic. And now we are going to walk through making plans, because there's a little bit of I would say like a nuance, a je ne sais quoi to making the first date plan. And then what to do when we're actually live in front of this human being. How do we act? How do we show up? Okay. So let's get into it. Today's question is, how do we have a great first date? Ooh, what comes up for you right when I say that?
Immediately when you said, like, how do we make the first date plans? I think it's really important to talk about first thing. Again, like normal, I have probably a different approach than I think most. But I know in particular, the one thing I want to do on a first date is 2 things. Make sure we have a lot of fun and make sure they feel safe. And so the best way that I've learned to do that is to have it be something that's in the daytime, something that's public, and something that is just a bundle of joy that also they and myself can quickly opt out of if it's going bad. And so I've had a lot, and this may be different from what a lot of people say online, but I've had a lot of like coffee first dates that go really, really well. Just like a fun, cool coffee shop or a lunch spot, maybe like a very light activity. I'm trying to think that would be paid, but it wouldn't be something too expensive by any means. And it also puts you around a lot of other people. You don't just want to go for, a walk in the park, like the evening time in like a random neighborhood. That's not really what we're doing here.
Right.
We want to make sure that, especially women as a man, just feel super, super comfortable. And then just trust that once you set the container, to just have as much fun as possible. Like make them laugh as much as you possibly can. Make them giggle, make them smile, and just get to know them to a level that excites you. Ask genuine questions. And so backtracking a little bit to getting ready and kind of planning the first date, I say keep it simple, keep it light, keep it fun, and keep it something that, hey, you can down that cup of coffee real fast if it's not going well. And so other than it needing to be an hour and a half to 2 hour excursion, it can be a quick pit stop for 20 minutes. Like, oh, okay, well, nice to meet you. And, wish you the best. And yeah, maybe see you around someday. That's it.
Can I dive in a little bit
Please,
of something? Okay.
All of it.
All right. So I know y'all are thinking the same thing. We're going to go step by step. So
what are they thinking?
Let's imagine, because they're like, that sounds great, Cam, but I don't know what that means. And I need specifics. So we're going to get real specific for the people. Okay. Because he's just really out here saying, make them giggle. And it's like, okay, Timothy, let's break it down to earth. Okay. So let's imagine, I'm going to give you some hypotheticals. Based on the trajectory of our other episodes, we've set up the dating app profile to perfection. We followed the formula, as they may say. We then had exchanges in messages. Let's say you took our advice, you started with a voice note, or you went bold mode and sent a video of your face. And let's say it went well, okay? You've now had a couple of exchanges. This requires some nuance, but I would say for women, we do not want to get stuck in the emotional support texting zone. We want to get off of texting and meeting this person as quickly as possible because, like we talked about the last episode, some people are using the apps to distract themselves from a myriad of things, and getting to the plan quickly is going to ensure that we don't waste our time or emotionally invest in someone who is a nothing burger going nowhere fast, okay? So we have a couple of exchanges of messages. Enough exchange to where you feel like you like this person, you get a good vibe, you feel like your personality, sense of humors match. They're meeting your preferences because you can see on their profile what they've got going on. You think they're cute. You have that general sense. And now, how should the man initiate a date? How does he get that woman off the app? What would you do?
I would always say something like, I would love to get to know you better. What would I do after that? I'm trying to think. I've been out of the game for a minute.
I'm glad he doesn't have a quick answer.
Yeah, it'd be kind of weird if I did. Right?
Uh-huh.
Man, and I would ask often, this is what I do. I'd be like, if it's something that I know is going to be probably like a lunch type of feel to it, I'd ask them, so pizza or sushi?
Oh.
And so it's forward. It's like, we're going to do something with this information. And it's also set up enough where they feel like they're mutually picking what we're doing, but not in a way where it's like, hey, woman, please plan the date. It's in a way where they feel like, oh, they have some agency here. And also the guy's going to set it up. So if they say pizza, I'm like, perfect. I have my favorite place in town. It's here, and I would love to take you out on, Wednesday afternoon, or whatever it is. And of course, back in college or working full time, Saturday afternoon, Friday afternoon, whatever that may be. And that I've always worked really, really well. I would always ask them like an either or question. And I don't think it's ever failed, to be honest.
It's really, really smart. I think if you take this strategy, now let's say, no, let me just bring them into the details. You had gone back and forth a couple of times to establish some banter,
Correct.
right?
This
And then
wasn't
you
the
went
first
in.
text.
Okay. I think this is important because I'm trying to be really detailed for you guys because I think that a lot of people get these details wrong. And guys will send pizza or sushi on message 1, which in some ways is like bold and women might like that. But also like you want to kind of you want to chase the chuckle, as Cam said, say something in the profile that catches your eye, make her feel seen, make her feel like she's not just spray and prayed, like you're sending pizza or sushi to 50 other people on Hinge. Like you want to establish a little bit of rapport before you go on with a bold move like that. So after you have the rapport, pizza or sushi is brilliant because that is also a weed out. Let me just say, a lot of men will just continue to go back and forth in conversation, not doing anything bold, and then it just goes nowhere.
Really?
Yes. I think men are very, you
just been messing with betas.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation, but I'm talking about most guys on these apps. And there's reasons for this. There's societal movements that have happened that have made men feel like, oh, I can't say the wrong thing, or I don't want to end up on TikTok. I don't want her to screenshot my messages and send them to her friends. And I understand there's a lot of fear right now for men in this area. But I think ultimately, if you don't take charge in something as simple as pizza or sushi, you're going nowhere. You're going to continue to have these text relationships, textuationships, whatever you want to call them.
I'm going to make a rule right now that I always followed through on before the rule actually existed.
Go ahead.
If you're meeting on a dating app, so they're there to date and go on dates, you have a 5-day window from when you match to ask her out.
Ooh.
I think it should happen day 2 or 3. Maybe day 1 if you had a long, great conversation type thing.
What do you mean by long?
I'm saying if you've texted back and forth for over half an hour, in my book, that's enough.
I think so too.
To get it.
Yeah.
To ask. It's not 5 minutes in, but half an hour in, probably 5 texts each, whatever it is. I think that's enough right there. But if you're taking more than 5 days and you get to the point where you have each other Snapchat, you're like, hey, good morning, how are you? Stop it. Just, you're wasting so much time. That's how you know you're doing it for a distraction.
Yeah.
What are you doing that for? What are you doing that for?
Yes.
And you're either like nervous about asking her, potentially she would reject you, or there's just a plethora of reasons why you do that. But we got to draw the line, man. You got to be like 5 days in to matching this woman. I got to ask her, or else it's done.
Yeah. And I will say, so women will come for me and be like, well, what about women taking the lead and asking the man on the date if he's not making the move? Now, there are situations where that can be cute. Okay. But we need always to be honest with ourselves about where that's coming from. Like we talked about in prior episodes. If a woman is so confident and so embodied in her juicy energy of knowing that she is that goddess, and then she goes up to a man and is like, pizza or sushi? That's a whole nother conversation. It's not usually happening that way though. And this is what we need to be honest about, because if a woman is making the first move out of anxiety, we are now going to end up in a relationship where we talked about masculine, feminine balance, right? Now she's in the masculine. Who's going to play the feminine role? Now, what have you put yourself into? You put yourself into a relationship where you as the woman are planning everything, initiating, putting the ball down the field, keeping the text going, checking in on him. And what's he doing? Jack. Is that the relationship we want? So it starts from the very beginning stages on this stuff, guys. So what I would recommend, and this is what I personally did to great success because I had a fantastic time dating. If a man did not text me, I did not exist.
You still do that.
I still do that.
We're like darn near married, right?
Yes.
Like we're together forever. You have never called me. You have yet to pick up the phone and call. I've never saw my phone. Oh, I'll beat you. It's always been me initiating that.
But if I ever did call you, you'd be like, oh my God.
Like, did like she die or something?
Literally. But guys, I'm not just talking out of my ass. Like I really live by this.
Let me elaborate on what you said though. If a woman is expressing interest and she doesn't know if the guy's picking up on the hint, you don't go up to the guy and be like, pizza or sushi this Saturday, I'm taking you out. No. And if a man says yes, that's not the man you want. If you listen to this podcast, at least. Maybe some other podcasts, but this podcast, probably not. What a man would be very, very comfortable with a woman saying to him in this lens is for her to express interest by literally saying, like, hey, I like you. Or like, hey, I find you really attractive. Or like, hey, I'm interested in you. Leave it at that. That's the only if he doesn't get the hints,
women are making in this podcast.
If he doesn't get the hints, his idiocracy will ruin your relationship if that ever can turn into a thing. So if he's not getting that hint, he's not the one for you.
Yep.
So that's the rule. It's completely okay. And I would have preferred this oftentimes in high school, college, whenever it was, if women would have done, whether it's directly to me in that way or at least indirectly let me know. Oftentimes women do, it's like they tell like their best friend and the best friend comes up to you. It feels like high school, but it still happens today.
Oh, yeah.
I'm interested. That's a fantastic way of going upon it.
Mm-hmm.
But anything more than that, I think is kind of overstepping and setting yourself up to have a submissive man, which I don't think a lot of women really want.
A passive man.
A passive man, exactly.
Really, because if you think about it in the principles of polarity, which is really just the fact that there's masculine and feminine energy within every living thing on earth and every person. So I have a mix of masculine and feminine energy, so does Cam, so do you. And really what this feels like is the masculine is doing and the feminine is being. And it goes in this beautiful flow. This is always in flux, like the yin and yang sign. It's constantly moving. It's not just fixed. And so when you are starting off a relationship dynamic, you have to be very mindful of the energy that you are bringing from the onset. Because how attraction works, think about the word attraction. These are two things coming together that have not been together before. Initial attraction and that dynamic that you are setting happens in these moments. It happens from the very beginning. And so as a woman, and I'll tell you, I mentioned if you're a woman with a lot of confidence and goddess energy going up to a man and making a move, it comes very differently. That's probably less than 5% of women though. Because a lot of what women are doing these days with making the first move is out of anxiety and is out of scarcity and is out of, I'm not finding my person. I need to make a move. I need to get the show on the road. I can't have kids if I wait much longer. It's coming from that place deep, deep down in the subconscious mind. And that's what we're cautioning you against acting from. Because if you act from that place and you make that first move, you've now invited in, attracted in a relationship dynamic where you will be the one doing. And let's just carry that forward 5-10 years. If you'd like to have kids, this dynamic where you are the woman taking care of everything, pushing the ball forward, planning the dates, following up, essentially having to create the masculine frame for this relationship. If you have kids together, you are going to be burnt out and absolutely exhausted when those kids come, because now you have, by nature of the energy you've brought to the dynamic, a more passive man who is not going to be, naturally inclined through his, really just through his life force of like, I have the space to do, I have the space to take initiative, I have the space to show up for you as my woman. If he's not in that space from day one, I'm not saying that it's impossible to reverse that later on, but it's harder. You want to start that from day one. You want a man who takes initiative. You want a man who shows up for you. That is men at their best. And if you enable the man from day one by taking over and making these moves out of anxiety, you are going to set yourself up for a very difficult relationship dynamic, especially years down the line. This is where a lot of women that I've seen, I've worked with, and I'm friends with personally, end up in relationships with men who have, like we talked about before, bum energy, or men who don't get off the couch, or men who, when they see their babies crying, don't get up and do anything about it. They don't change diapers. They don't do anything. They want the woman to work. This is how we get here. It starts from the beginning. So you will never hear me say, and I know this is controversial, I don't advise women to make the first move unless it's coming from that pure, raw, juicy energy of, I am so worthy and I do not care if I get rejected. I am on cloud 9. If it's not coming from that place, I will never recommend women to make the first move, and I'll stand on that. Now, what I do recommend that you do as a woman is drop the handkerchief. You can, in modern terms, you can go on his Instagram page and like 3 posts and see what happens. You can let someone know you're interested in them and then set the stage for a man to make the first move, a man to show up. And I know this might sound a little old-fashioned, but everything we're sharing right now comes through the lens of polarity in relationships. And when you look at the most juicy, romantic, alive relationships, ours included, that polarity is really strong. And both poles of the masculine and feminine are really alive and aligned within those two people. I create the space for Cam to show up in.
Most definitely.
And he does. Yeah. Every time.
And I think as I say this, I want to make sure this comes across with the same intention that I'm giving it. And that is, women have all the power. Men will work and will play ball to the level of which you want them to. The women set that up for success. Men oftentimes are very lazy and will do the least amount of work necessary to get what they want. And so if women set the stage properly, as they always do for everything, the man if they are meant to be with them, the man will come to the plate and hit a home run for you.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to set the field. And so this is exactly what we're doing with these small little techniques, is because if you start it this way, that is what's going to set up your man for success, to step into the highest version of themselves, which you have done so well for me over the past, like 11 months of us knowing each other, 10 months of dating. And that's because you have been very, very conscious and intentional with the amount of energy you give me, the amount of signals and signs you share with me, and also giving me the space with enough trust that I can and will step up the plate every time. But that only comes from a level of faith, trust, and knowing that you can have everything you want and more.
Mm-hmm.
All of the miscommunication in dating is coming from a place of fear.
Yeah.
From both sides. But in particular, what we're talking about right now, what you just said, it's coming from women.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from, okay, time's running out on my biological clock. I got to get married. Or, well, I don't know. A lot of men I haven't dated in a while. So this man's the first person to interest me. Okay, I'll jump on that. Whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's coming from a place of scarcity and fear, which is always going to set them up for long-term failure. They may find more guys with these new techniques than what they had before, but these guys won't lead to lasting success and lasting loving marriages. Because if the frame or the field is created improperly by the women, the man will never have the incentives to step up to the plate for the betterment of the relationship.
Yes.
And that's just the sad truth. I wish we lived in a different reality where men actually took full responsibility for their actions and actually looked at the field as it was, like, what is the best thing I can do for myself, herself, and our future family, and actually follow through on it. If that was the case, the world would look radically different. But that's just not the current case. And so we must give advice. We must set the frame for what the current man is and empower them to step in the highest version of themselves. But that takes time. And it takes very conscious, intentional movements, if you want to call it that, or communication to set everything up perfectly for that to happen.
Absolutely. And it starts in these moments. It starts with your profile, with the messages you send, with how you show up on the date. This dynamic starts and is set in stone to some extent. The game that you're playing is going to be set in stone for the next couple of months at least now. And this is why we really want to convey this with a lot of passion. And it's really interesting when you look at our dynamic and how we started, because this is exactly what we're talking about. Like, we met at Lizard Yoga. You had sent me a bunch of things we had talked about, and you're like, what was that book again? And then I sent it to you. And I just felt so detached. Like, I loved our conversation. I loved you. I thought that you were going to come on the walks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yay, this is great. What a wonderful conversation. But if I had left our first conversation saying, like, send out a bat signal to 10 of my friends and said, oh my God, I just met my husband, guys. Oh my God, this is it. That energy is what messes up your chances of actually having a successful relationship with this person, because it's this energy of clinginess, of graspiness, of I need to put all of my eggs in this one basket, and I need to be the perfect person, which isn't who I actually am. So I'm going to contort myself. I'm not going to show any of my imperfections, which is what make people fall in love with you. I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be this like very perfect person who's going to show up with this perfect character tailor-made for this man who I think is going to be my husband. And then the man's just like, wait, I thought I was interested, but I'm not anymore. Why is that? Because we put such high stakes on the interaction. And so this is why we're sharing all this. We want, as I'm saying this, I want you as men and women to really hear us. And for women specifically, I'll just speak to you directly. The more we can be aware of the emotions and underlying beliefs we are bringing into dating, such as, I am running out of time. I'll never find my person. It's getting too late to have kids. Any of those. Those are just a couple, but I could keep going and going and going. Oh, I'm looking for a unicorn. The man I'm looking for doesn't exist. There are no men out there who want to commit. The list goes on and on. if we are approaching dating from that place of limiting belief, it will be carried through in our actions. The subconscious mind is incredibly powerful, and it dictates most of our behavior. I think I've read 95% of our behavior is driven by the subconscious mind. So if you have those beliefs in your system, which are all tied to emotions, which can be felt and released from the body, we need to be really honest about that up front, because if we don't look there, and I know it's not easy and I know it's painful, if we do not go to those beliefs and thoughts, they will show up with us on this first date. And if we have a great first date and I went out with Cam and we had an electric conversation in Lizard Yoga and I started attaching all of these fantasy stories onto what this relationship was going to be, we probably would not be sitting here today, because my tight grip on the expectations and the attachment for this relationship would have driven him away. And that's what we're sharing, is that as the woman, I want you to be aware of the limiting beliefs you're bringing on dates. By the way, this applies to men too. And I also want you to just sit with yourself with these. Take them slowly, one day at a time. Do some journaling, do some breath work, do sound baths, walks without headphones, anything you can do to create space in your mind for these limiting beliefs that are running your behavior to be fully seen, felt, and healed. And then go on this date from a place of true detachment. And I'm not just talking detachment in the way that you see on Instagram Reels where people are like, pretend you don't care. No, we really need to get to a place where these behaviors and beliefs are not holding you back and showing up across the table with this man or this woman. So I want you to first start there and remember that if you can show up on dates in your power, you do not need to prove anything. You do not need to get someone to like you, to choose you, to want to be with you. You do not need anything from this person. You have 1 hour of their time. 1 hour is it. That's all you need. You show up, you bring your most authentic energy. You are in your power. You don't need to say, oh, this is what I've done. This is the school I went to. These are all the projects I'm working on. You can just be exactly as you are, powerful in your own existence. And you walk away on your merry bridge knowing that right around the corner, there are 1,000 more men that you could go on a date with just like that. And you just keep on going on these dates until that man is recognized by your heart and by his heart. And that's how it happens.
Preach. Preach. Yes, queen. Yes. That was a shout out to our last episode.
Yeah, seriously.
I had an idea as you were saying all that.
Yeah.
As you were absolutely cooking straight flames.
Thank you, baby.
How do you feel about us doing like a mock first date for like 10 minutes?
Oh, that'd be fun. I was thinking about doing that too.
Okay. So this is how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So normally, of course, if it's at 12 p.m., it's at noon, the date, show up on time, right? I think for both genders, I think it's very, very important. For this example, I'm going to go off camera for a second. I'm going to walk back in. I'm going to sit down and we're going to treat this as if it's a first date for like 10 minutes.
Are you serious?
Is it okay with you?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You ready?
Okay.
Anything you want to preface beforehand? Or are we good to go?
Okay. So did we follow all of the things we talked about?
All the things we talked about.
On a dating app? Yeah,
I asked pizza or sushi. You said sushi.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a sushi restaurant, Friday afternoon, 12 o'clock. I showed up on time. Actually, I showed up about 10 minutes early. I'm at the table, reserved, ready to go. The waiter has brought you back, but in this situation, I'll walk in. It's just easier. Mm-hmm. And then we start from there.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Let's do it. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
You must be Elle.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. So nice to meet you.
So good to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you.
I love this color on you. The green is my favorite color, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So,
this green?
Great choice. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank you.
That's perfect.
My favorite color right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we already have so much in common.
It's a long list, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you, what has been your favorite moment, your highlight of your week so far?
Oh, what a thoughtful question. I would say my favorite moment of this week was one of the gratitude parties that I host. So I go on, I know it's a little wacky, but I go, I know it's pretty crazy. I go on Zoom with like people from all over the world, and we get into this room and we just share gratitudes and affirmations. And it might be like a little woo for some people, but I really, really enjoy it. And so every time I go and host those events, I am filled with so much love and light, and it makes me so happy. And so those happen every day. So I guess it would be a 5 times highlight for this week.
That's incredible. Okay, but first you said gratitude party. I was assuming that like there would be some like champagne margaritas involved. No. And then when you said Zoom call like every morning, I'm like, oh, okay, this is completely different.
Exactly.
So this is like a gratitude routine that you do for just like people on the internet whenever they want, and they just come on and they just talk. That is incredible. But like how do you come up with that idea? Like what would inspire you to create something like that?
Have you ever done a gratitude routine before?
I've done like a few. My parents are really into gratitudes, and of course like we all say them around Thanksgiving and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed my friend gave me this journal where like every day it has like these sections of how to start your day, like gratitude. I think it has some affirmations. It has like to-do lists and stuff like that. So I want to say I did that for like 2 weeks and then I like stopped. But I did really enjoy how I felt while doing that. Definitely.
Have you ever done it out loud to other people?
No. I mean, I feel like I wouldn't have a problem with that. I guess I never had like an experience, and definitely like my college roommates, stuff like that would want to do that, you know, in the morning as we're eating our breakfast, eating our cereal, like just saying we're grateful for it. But honestly, now that you put that on my awareness, I feel like that's something I really would like to try. That's awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if this date goes well, then maybe I'll invite you. maybe you'll get lucky.
Maybe invited the party.
Exactly.
I would love that. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was such an amazing idea. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but I get my best ideas when I'm just like booping around the house and thinking about something completely different. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, you know, podcast guests always talk about a daily gratitude routine. Why isn't anyone creating space for people to actually do that? We should just do that. And so that's kind of where it started. I think a lot of my ideas are kind of like looking at plot holes that I find in society and being like, I will be the one to fill it.
That's awesome. That's like the entrepreneur mind. Mm-hmm. Like you just look at society and you're like, oh, I can solve that problem. Oh, I can change their lives. Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. So what do you do for work?
For work? Mm-hmm. Well, I work at Facebook.
You work at Facebook? Mm-hmm. Dang, that's big time.
You know, some may say.
Do you like working there?
Oh, it's been a journey. You know, I've been there a long time. I'm a veteran. More than 95% of the company, actually, because I've been there 7 years. Serious? Yeah, they keep track of that. You're they keep on your profile.
In the Zuckerberg army. I love it.
They do. I know. Yeah.
I love it.
Zuckbot. I'm one of them. And so I'm very grateful for Facebook because when I first started my job, I was right out of college. And it taught me so much. It was like being at a little startup because I was working on the nonprofit vertical on a team of 3. And I just felt like I had so much autonomy. I could create webinars, resources. I could do 30 times the amount of creative work than people on like e-commerce or retail. And so I was like my own little CEO of my nonprofit startup, and I loved it. And then I deprecated my role by accident because I created this business case and basically got approved by Cheryl and Mark. And they were like, yes, we will create this new organization, but you are too young to lead it. And I was like, no. And that was kind of my Joker origin story. So from that point on, I really took a little bit of a twist in my Facebook journey. And so now I'm just enjoying every day. I'm working on the new products team. I'm enjoying my time. But I will say I still am a little salty about losing my nonprofit work. But all in all, can't complain.
I've never heard of a Joker origin story that turns into someone hosting gratitude calls. And as I ask about their job, they're like, oh, and what I'm grateful for. But like that has never been, I've never heard that by anyone ever. And so I think it just kind of shows like your life philosophy. If you talk about something like that, especially if it leads to a joke or origin story, and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, that's why I'm grateful for it. So that's awesome.
Oh, really cool. Thank you. It's just, you know, there's so much to be grateful for. And I think I've been in such an amazing position at Facebook and have learned so much, have met so many incredible people. And I feel like a lot of the skills that I have from the Facebook journey just will carry with me for the rest of my life. And so I wouldn't be so good on Zoom without my Facebook days. But what about you? What do you do for work?
I love that. Right now, I actually just moved from across the world from Indonesia. And while I was there, I had led community events. I was hosting men's circles. I was writing quite a bit online. And yeah, I'm here to now continue those community events, then looking at doing coaching and retreats. And just something about self-improvement has always really lit me up. And I see such a need for that in our generation. And yeah, I'm just doing my best to, just like you, just shine more light onto the world in the best way I know how. And so I'm taking it day by day, but I'm really, really happy with the momentum I'm building so far. So it's been a great journey. A lot to be grateful for.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So has there been a highlight? Has there been someone you worked with that like really stands out, you're really proud of?
My first ever client found me at a retreat that I went to as actually a participant, not the host yet. And yeah, they just loved the conversations that we had. And they wanted to pay me a lot of money to coach them. And so I took him up on that, of course.
Nice.
And after working with me, he was able to let go of a lot of his addictions that he's had his entire life. It was smoking weed. It was a handful of other ones that have been plaguing him for a decade plus. And this guy is very, very successful, like one of the top salesmen in the world.
Wow.
And yeah, just thankfully, just from what I've learned from my own life and what I've learned from hosting the men's circles and helping many men from now across the world, I was able to just kind of share that knowledge with him and empower him to let go of what no longer serves him. I love the whole like consciousness and spirituality. So what actually happened just kind of raised his vibration to a point where he just kind of let go of those seamlessly without it being painful, without any withdrawal, stuff like that. And so I was just very grateful to have that experience so far. And that was just like the perfect initial client for me to just go off to the races and go all in on this. And I just feel like I'm in such an exciting, pivotal part of this new career. And it's going to be awesome. I'm very grateful for it.
Wow. I can feel how excited you are about it. Your eyes light up when you talk about it.
Amazing. Amazing. Another thing that my eyes light up around is sushi. That's why I'm so glad we're here today. This is one of my, I'm so glad you picked sushi. I love pizza, don't get me wrong. Maybe my favorite food. But I was really craving sushi. So let's go ahead and look at this menu real quick. Okay. And scene. Okay, that was cool, by the way. We just did that.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
One thing I want to keep in mind for those that are watching is, especially as the man, try to keep the conversation, like who has the microphone, 60-40. So other people are talking 60%, you're talking 40%. If it's anything but that, they feel a dissonance. And so if I'm only talking 30% of the time or 20 or 10% of the time, they feel like they're oversharing and they feel like they've learned nothing about me. But what I did throughout this whole time is sprinkle in fun facts around me that they'll remember. And so if her best friend tomorrow asks how the date went, and she's like, what's his favorite color? I'm like, oh, it's green. So or many, many other things that you learned about me. The fact I went to Indonesia, there's a plenty. So, okay, how can I say it this way? I set up stories so that it was priming you to ask more questions.
Yeah.
The Indonesia thing, the fact just move here, coach, all those other things. And you did the exact same thing for me. It's like you shared not everything, but enough for them to feel as if that answer was more than enough. And an abundance of excitement and just feeling good about where you are in life around it. But we were both giving each other so much information to work with, if that makes sense. We weren't like, yeah, I work at Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this week I went for a long walk and it was really good. Yeah. Like that's how normal people talk. And that's why these first dates suck.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of create everything into a short story with little enticing things that can spruce up the chances of their curiosity spiking, that's what's going to lead to success, I believe.
Yeah. And one thing you may notice about the two of us in this dynamic is that I like being kind of like giggly and just happy. like it's just a good vibe to be on a date with someone who's just like, like it's just fun.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I feel like when I was on dates, I would bring like my most exuberant self. And that kind of like good feeling that you have when you're talking to someone who just seems like they're overflowing with good energy is amazing. There's nothing like it. And so I felt that coming from him. When he was talking about his life, he felt that coming from me. How did you receive me, out of curiosity?
Oh, it was incredible.
On the mock date, how did it feel?
It felt really good. It felt like you wanted to be there, which is big.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have this saying, oh, I don't want to be here. I have plans later.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Stop it. Stop it. You obviously chose to be there and give it your all. Like
Yeah.
I would, if you know how to do it, and especially if it feels right for you, show up in your happiest, most giggly, most fun mood.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we both did. And it's so hard to make that date go bad if both sides are doing that.
Yeah.
Because we just like giggle at each other and laugh. And like if someone spills the water, it won't be a big
just having
deal.
a fun time.
If we're both serious and someone spills the water, be like, you going to clean that up?
Exactly.
But if we do it, it's like, oh my God.
Exactly. And we just got to be honest about something here, ladies. One thing with high achieving women who have been single for a long time and have these limiting beliefs, they bring a seriousness and a coldness on dates. It's almost like you are holding this man you don't know to task for all of the pain you've been through with men before. And we just don't want to do that. If you are in that place where you still have some healing work to do, you're not bringing your most exuberant self, you're bogged down, or you're thinking to yourself like the serious, heavy, oh, I don't want to waste my time. So you're either like my person, I'm going to either interview you with all these questions, or you can keep it moving. If you have that mentality, just cool it on dating for a while.
You're not
and
ready to date.
We're going to go within and we're going to get our energy back up and then we're going to date, because dating from a place of exhaustion gets you nowhere, but more and more exhausted, and it pushes the person you're meant to be with further away. So the first thing that we need to do is get ourselves into a place of excitement. And if you can't sit there and genuinely say, I'm excited to go on dates knowing that I will meet my person the more I put myself out there. It's only a matter of time. It's a waiting game. I am putting myself out there. I am going to events. I am living a life that lights me up, and it's only a matter of time. If you don't have that mentality about it and just be honest with yourself, that's okay. That is okay. But do not date from a place of holding men accountable for the egregious things that men in the past have done, or this guy has to do everything just perfectly for me to even give him a chance, or I'm going to be like cold and closed off to this guy I don't know. I'm not going to bring myself on the date. I'm going to put this laundry list of questions like I'm an interrogator. Men do not, especially healthy men, they do not respond well to that.
Especially the whole like, oh, I might give him a chance attitude.
Yeah, no.
Stop it.
No.
You are only attracting unhealthy men with mother wounds. That's what's happening if you're doing that. Do you really want that? A healthy, if it was like, oh, maybe I'll give you a chance, I'd be like, oh, go fuck yourself. I'm not doing that. Like, what are you talking about? Every date needs to be a mutual interest, not like gatekeeping. What are we doing here? Mm-hmm. And so these mindsets that we've been taught by society, by the TV shows, about it's a recipe for failure. Go to a date and prime yourself to be the best version of yourself, to be in a good mood, to be optimistic, and to know it's only a matter of time until you find your person. Do not date until you're in that mode. Yeah. Truly, you will only attract people that aren't in line with you.
Yeah. You'll attract lessons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lessons and lies. Oof. That'll be happening a lot. So
lessons, lies, and losers.
And losers.
Gotta round it out on the threes.
Bangers.
But no, we're being really serious here. Like, we want to set you up for the best success. And I will tell you, when I dated out of scarcity or fear, I attracted, in some cases, like straight up abusive people, because they can smell your anxiety on you. And they know that if they say the right things at the right time in the right way, they will put their foot through the crack in that door and get where they want to go with you. And you are not going to like it. And you're going to end up being like, oh my gosh, why do I keep on attracting the same kind of relationship? This is how it happens because we're dating from a place of fear and scarcity. We want for you so badly to be so in tune with your real internal feelings. And all you need to do after this episode, go on a nice long walk for 30 minutes or more by yourself and just ask yourself, if you're single, where you are dating from. Just ask yourself that question and then go on a nice long walk. And you will have the answer by the end of that walk when you walk with no headphones, no stimulus, just you, yourself, and your thoughts and feelings. And if you go from that walk saying, I'm dating from a place of fear, that's great. That is good signal. We can work with that. Join our communities, continue listening to this podcast, continuing spending time with yourself until we raise your energy to a place where you will attract men like a magnet or women like a magnet instead of repelling them or just playing out the same cycles on loop. We don't need to be exhausted anymore. But if you come back from that walk saying, I really genuinely feel so excited about my life, everything is exactly where I'd hope it would be. I'm just looking for my person. And I feel like even without them, I'm okay. Even if I never find them, I'm okay. If you are truly coming from a place of attachment, go on dates. But you know that answer. Do not listen to any external voices, any of your friends, any of your family, anyone pressuring you. Do not listen to any of that. You listen to your own voice, which only you know. So, on that note, we will leave this one here. I think we have talked some really
heavy today.
good information on this one, guys. A long range of how to make a great first date. So we will end it here. We love you so much. As a little announcement, we do have our communities launching. You are more than welcome to join if you'd like to shift from exhaustion to excitement. That is literally what we do. You can come. What? Am I cooking hard?
Exhaustion to excitement.
Come on now.
Hey,
That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
Hey,
As a collective, you don't have to do it alone. Dating doesn't have to be hard or heavy or really difficult. You can come in here and you can catch this love and we can rise together.
My baby don't need a kitchen to cook.
Listen.
The way you've been spitting.
That's what I'm saying.
God.
I may not cook in the kitchen, but I cook on this podcast.
Dang.
There we go.
But she's 100% right. Both these communities were handpicked and designed by us. We put a lot of hours into making this an incredible experience for everyone involved. We are priming you as men to get our health in order, our wealth in order, relationships in order, and every other bucket of life that's important to us to make sure that we're aligned with the highest version of ourselves. And for you in True Love Club, priming ourselves with a supportive community to make sure we can attract the love of our lives, the love that we deserve.
Absolutely.
So,
in a safe place where you can step into your highest self by expressing what's on your heart, by getting to the root of these beliefs holding you back and just feeling like we can finally shed them and let them go and then call in someone so good from that place of emptiness and clarity within our systems. So, with all that said, join us. Links below if it so calls out to you. And there's so many more things we're launching, so keep an eye out. But we love you so, so much. Thank you for being here with us. And we cannot wait to see you next week.
love you guys.
Love you guys. Bye, y'all.